All right. What the hell are you guys doing here? And what the hell am I doing here? I mean, seriously, what gave me the right to speak on the stage? And what made you guys entering this lecture hall dedicating your time and attention to what I have to say? I'm on the stage because someone decided that I had enough credibility to be here. Apparently, leaving the office and cycling 10,000 kilometers across Africa is enough to make it up on the stage. And apparently it's also sufficient to make you think that what I have to say is worthy of your time. But where's the threshold? I mean, if I had cycled 100 kilometers, would that have been enough? 1,000 or 5,000 maybe? And if I had done the same thing in Germany or in Europe, would that have been equally interesting? And in which way does cycling even make me a good speaker? I mean, the last thing you do on a bicycle is giving speeches or presentations. Now, I'm not trying to find a reason to run away and leave the stage. What I want you to understand is that we often use proxies in life. We use them to understand the world and the people around us, to judge how interesting they are. And we do this because somehow we need to break down the complexity of this huge world around us. And it can be very useful. We need to put things into boxes, into order. So in my case, the organizing team of this conference decided that my cycling, the 10,000 kilometers, during this time I will have made enough interesting experiences that will form an interesting TED Talk. So my cycling and my traveling experience became a proxy for my abilities as a speaker. Now, if this was a good proxy or not, I'll leave for you to decide. But we do this, we use proxies so often that we use them without awareness. And for example, we stop questioning them. If you use GDP as a measure for the well-being of an economy and the people living within it, just because a few economists decided it was a good proxy a few decades ago, then society stopped questioning this proxy after all. And instead of focusing the well-being of the people, we now start increasing just the GDP instead of the well-being. Despite by now we all know that after a certain point making more money won't make anyone any happier at all. So the real issue, however, is that we do the same thing with our fellow human beings. We stop seeing them as humans. Instead, we ask them for their jobs and for their careers, and we use that as a proxy to decide how interesting they are. And if they're not interesting, we just leave them in a corner, and that can go within a few minutes. We don't care if someone is a spellbinder, an attentive listener, if they're good at cracking jokes, if they're spreading love and compassion, or if they're spreading hate. We evaluate people based on their labels and narratives, and they're often success-based or career-based. And if someone's too ordinary, well, you just leave them in a corner and they're no more interesting than a peanut. During my trip in Africa, I wasn't asked who I was or what I was doing. I was seen as a human being in need of food, in need of shelter, in need of company. And I had food, I had shelter, I had company. And I received those things not because of my social status or because of my CV. I received them, A, because of the generosity and the goodwill of the local people, and B, because I was open, attentive, and aware of whoever I approached. And through this genuine human connection, through receiving those things based on genuine human connection, not because of a mere transaction where you exchange services for goods and money or social status, I realized that people as such are great. We're caring and loving human beings. And it evaporated all the doubt and fear I had of my and of our fellow beings. And when I realized there are so beautiful things to discover out there, I asked myself, why is it so hard for us? Why do so few people actually go out and explore? Why is it so hard to leave something behind and change? Well, one answer is that because these narratives we use, they have become so predominant in our society, we forget who we are as human beings. We stop trusting ourselves. We stop believing in our own strength and personalities, in our weaknesses and vulnerabilities. And we stop loving ourselves. We cling to this image we create for ourselves and for society. And once we step away from this image, we think we lose the foundation our life is based on. Well, another thing I discovered is you won't. You'll still be the same person. You'll still be the same human being, just walking on another path that gives you another narrative. And if people don't like you for this new narrative, they probably didn't care about you as a person in the first place. Now, I myself changed from being a careerist and finance professional to being a founder and managing director to being a free spirit and traveler to whatever I am now. But I'm still Fritz, and the people who are important to me stayed. And realizing this is the foundation. That is what is empowering and enabling me to go and explore, to continue challenging myself. And once you understand what's important to you in life, and that changing part of it, for example, your career or your job, that you won't lose that. That enables you to go and explore and play yourself. Because knowing that if you fail, you will only fall so deep. And there are two layers to this foundation. There's an inner base, which is your own skills, your personality, your virtues, your mindset. And then there's an external safety net. That is whatever or whoever supports you when shit hits the fan. That can be your family, your friends, or even the social system. Now, it's a privilege to have an external safety net, and it takes time to build an inner base. But especially in Western societies or in Germany, most of us can rely on such a foundation in one way or the other. Now, without the awareness of it, without knowing we have such a foundation, we don't act on it. Once I identified my own foundation through analyzing what can actually go wrong or what will happen if things go wrong, my life changed. And chances are yours will too. Whichever challenge you face, whichever decision you take, you can only fall so deep. You know where you'll end up. And hitting rock bottom can only be so hard. And you can stop worrying. And if hitting rock bottom appears too hard or too likely to happen, you simply choose to walk another path. Now, having your own foundation, identifying it, being aware of it, these are the pillars that allow you, that enable you to go and explore. But what motivates me to do so? After all, it's still easier to stick with the status quo and keep on doing what I'm doing. Now, for me personally, exploring is without alternative. There's a wise Indian man, Sadhguru, who once said, "Conclusion means death." Once you conclude, you reach the final state on a path, may it be a physical or a cognitive path. You stop questioning, you stop learning, you stop developing. You stagnate, satisfied with whatever you have concluded. There's nothing else left to understand or to find out. And once you conclude, You don't die physically, but mentally you reach your final state in life. You won't go any further, you won't go any deeper than you have until this point, simply because there's no intrinsic motivation left to do so. Now, for me, this is a mental death that, from an egoistic point of view, appears even worse than physical death. So, exploring the unknown, jumping into the cold water, however uncomfortable it may seem, is the only way to stay alive. And once you do that, once you leave your comfort zone or the dead zone, that's where the magic happens. That's where opportunities arise, where doors open you didn't even think or dream of before. And the deeper and the further you go, the deeper and further you jump into the cold water or the unknown, the more unexpected things will happen. Now, I'm very aware that cycling or running across entire continents is not everyone's cup of tea. But there's a beautiful quote from the series The Peanuts, where Charlie Brown says, "We only live once." And Snoopy replies, "Wrong. We only die once. We live every day." So every day we have the opportunity to explore and to live. Every day we can start with little things, things that just maybe happen in your brain. It can be thoughts. Just be open to the possibility of you being wrong, of you not seeing the whole picture. Maybe just try a new route on your way to work. Run backwards, turn a picture upside down, but challenge your status quo. Do something you've never done before. And maintain your curiosity, because once you lost that, you have concluded. Which brings me back to the most important learning of my own explorations. People are great. Don't conclude on your fellow beings because of their jobs, because of their clothes, or whatever you may want to use as a proxy to judge their lives. Remain open to the fact that below every shell, below every label, there's an individual human being. If someone smiles at you, smile back. If someone doesn't smile at you, smile anyways. People, once they experience generosity and kindness, they'll play it forward. So if you start spreading generosity and kindness, it'll get back to you sooner than later. When I was on a local bus in Tanzania, there were toddlers being passed around the passengers while their parents quickly took care of something else. There was no fear that anyone, not even a weird white guy traveling on his bicycle, would harm that child. People trust and care for each other. And just a few years ago, also here in Europe, it was normal to see people on the side of the road hitchhiking. Now, where have they gone? Would you still let someone enter your car and give them a ride? We should start trusting and believing each other again. And do yourself a favor. Start and never stop exploring. Question the proxies you base your decisions on. Don't let them take control over you or the way you judge yourself or your fellow human beings. View your fellow people as human beings, born with the same needs, desires, and attentions you were. And remember, just as you are, people are great.